Hey everybody, Steve the Amateur Historian coming at you from a slightly different angle than usual. One, to show off my 70s crime drama movies, I guess, but also this is like the only area that is not cluttered around me. It's what happens when I'm working on like 14 things at once. Anyway, I'm back to bring you yet another, the third installment of my Portland Then and Now series, where I go out to various parts of the city, Portland, Oregon specifically, and I take you to spots that were depicted in old photographs taken of the city to show you how they looked then compared to how they look now. And normally when I do this series, I try to focus on areas that are only somewhat changed or potentially almost identical. Not places that have been drastically changed, even though I know that can be appealing, and that'll probably pop up every so often in this series. But I mostly want to focus on areas that still have some semblance of what was there many, many years ago. And this one, I'm going to be bobbing all over the place, southeast Portland, northeast Portland, wherever I end up. It's done over the course of a few different days. So all that said, let's jump right into the action, heading down to the Lads Edition area of southeast Portland. I'm now towards the southwestern edge of Lads Edition, heading like right up here at this division's like a block and a half up here. That is where the Lads Edition kind of ends, and of course somebody's got their tent set up like almost right where I want to be for my next image. So I'm walking, this is Elliott, and it crashes into 12th and Division right up here. What are you guys up to? You're everywhere, so hopefully I'll be able to get a view around this big effing tent right here. Hello bird, I would need to be standing like right here. This tent is going to be right in my way. So I'm going to do the best I can. You just have to deal with the fact that there's a tent here, and hopefully whoever's inside is not overly confrontational. But I'm going to get you a general view. Yeah, so sometimes they ain't always perfect. I was in the area, so I was like, I'm gonna go do it, and that freaking tent is literally like probably less than 10 feet in front of where the camera was that took that picture. Hopefully you got, because I think that building that's there that shows up towards the right portion of the picture, I think that's the same building that's there. I think this owl up here would agree with me. Right, so I'm now on the opposite end of Lads Edition. I was at the southwestern side, now I'm on more towards the southeastern side, and I'm trying to, Lord willing, get to 22nd and Sherman. That is the site of my next image, and I believe this is Sherman, thank God, otherwise I was going to be real confused. You can get lost in Lads Edition. And this particular image, a rare colored image, comes to us from 1966, and it was taken from a little bit in front of where this stop sign is now. But I mean, honestly, it looks pretty much the same. I'm gonna try to line this up as perfectly as I can. I'm not gonna quite get it that close. It's a little bit wide, but you can see this is the right street that I'm looking for. So to get everything in shot, I have had to back up slightly, but this is the general view. It's a little bit tighter, but I don't know why. The image I got is just wider. So it's rare that an old image I find actually displays something wider than my camera. So I had to like back up a little bit further because the image, I feel like it was taken like just a little ways back along the grass, but I had to step more like out over here in the street to get this building, the little bit of the building past it, and I couldn't even really get much of the street down this way in the shot, which also shows up in the picture. Then again, you know, I'm just using my iPhone. Whoever took that image was probably using, you know, a professional camera with a certain type of lens, and obviously depending on the lens, you'll get slightly different perspectives. Even if it's not a particularly wide image, you might see more than you would on my camera. It just depends on the type of camera they used, and I have no clue what that camera would be. So this next image is a little bit intriguing. It says on the image that it's at 24th between Harrison and Hawthorne, which initially I read that as like Harrison at Hawthorne, but Harrison and Hawthorne run parallel to each other, so how could they cross? But I realized that's just a general description because I'm on Harrison now, but Hawthorne is a couple blocks north of here. So the actual location that I'm trying to get to is 24th, looking north on 24th between Stevens and Market. And that means whichever one comes first, Stevens or Market, that would be the approximate intersection that the image is taken from, because the image, as you'll see, is obviously taken from right by an intersection. And it's an image of some workers doing some sewer work back in 1924. So we're going back to black and white pictures. So this intersection, dead ahead here, this is 24th and Stevens, and Market is the next street down, so it would have been taken from here. Look at these beautiful homes. Sadly, only the sidewalk really shows up on this side of the street. The image was taken more towards this corner, but here I am at 24th and Stevens, so the image would have been taken from in the street, but more towards this direction. So it would have looked something like this. And now this is a situation where the image is actually a little bit tighter than my camera, unlike the last one. But I believe the first house you see is this kind of yellowish one. So I probably just have to zoom in a little bit. That's a little bit more kind of how the image looks. It's a little bit tighter. Just wanted to move briefly while that car. So this is, it is a little bit tighter, like you don't see as much of the intersection, but left to right, this is more kind of how the image looked. So maybe it's a little bit lower. Trying the best I can, but this is pretty close to what the image would be. And again, you mostly just see the houses that are over here. This is the west side of 24th. And alas, you miss out on some of these amazing houses on the other side of the street. So yeah, there's kind of a strange mix in this area of the new and the old. But anyway, another picture done. We are off to our next site. We've officially arrived on Hawthorne, which is good. All right, here's the, ooh, Cinemagic. How you doing? I mean, you're closed, but just for now. I love that stuff. Okay, so trying to get myself set up nice and good here. I think this is still 20th, so the image I'm going to be taking is the next block down, but I have an image from, they're both from 1972, so almost 50 years ago. And one is looking west at 19th and Hawthorne, which is the next block down, and the next image is taken from 18th and Hawthorne. So you'll be seeing kind of a wide view and then like a tighter view of the things that are off in the distance from the first image, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And here is more or less that same view that you see in this 1972 image right here. You can see the both the buildings in the primary foreground, the apartment building and little stores over here, both still here, as would make sense. And from here we process forward, so a lot of what you see in this distance up here will be what shows up in the next image, because we only going one block down. Actually, wait a minute, I just realized I would have gone a full block down that way and I would have been like half a block off from where I was supposed to be. So I actually, no, the image is wrong, because they said it's 18th and Hawthorne and Poplar, which I think is the street that angles down over here, but I'm still at 19th, right? Yeah, so it's actually 19th, Hawthorne and Poplar. I just realized there's this building right here is in the foreground. It's the same apartment building from the last image. Because the one thing that turned me was I noticed you could see the front facade of the store here, and this is the place I believe that got damaged in the fire. And you can see this part in the next picture, which you wouldn't be able to see if I was like way down there. So glad I caught myself. All right. So actually, I'm literally like, they're pretty much pictures taken in the same spot. Here's a wider interpretation of the picture, essentially, because you're only supposed to see it from about here to like here. So this is a much wider view, but in the image you catch almost this full building from top to bottom. But from a tighter view, it's a little bit more. This thing will cooperate with me. It's a little bit more like this, but now everything's too tight. But this is about as close as I'm gonna get to matching the two. I'll just have to crop the picture to make it all work. Photography, what are you gonna do? I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get off Hawthorne and start going this way, because I only had 2 images from Hawthorne I needed to get. And while I thought they were a block apart, they were actually really taken a couple feet apart. But there's a lot of weirdos hanging out on Hawthorne today. And a couple of them were, God, look at this house. Anyway, some of them were giving me the eye in some strange ways. And so I'm ready to be off that street and venture on to the next location that we can get ourselves a picture of. Now walking west on Southeast Taylor Street. I'm at 29th and Taylor. I'm looking to get to 33rd and Taylor for an image I found on Vintage Portland's site that actually originally they didn't know where it had been taken, but they tracked it to 33rd and Taylor. And I'm glad I took a celebration. I'm glad I took another look, because I thought the image was taken on 23rd filming towards Taylor, which would be, they'd be looking in a southern direction. But it says it's looking west. So it's looking back towards me, which means it was taken from probably in the middle of Taylor Street, and the crossing street you see in the picture is 33rd. I would have totally screwed that up. But one of the things is there's this big church, and you can kind of see some of it up here, that shows up in the picture. So I know I have to get just past that church because it shows up in the picture. So I probably would have been confused when I got to that spot, turned the wrong way, and realized the church isn't showing up. Fancy that. Here is this amazing church, and I just looked again and it said it's on 33rd near Taylor. So it's not even actually on Taylor like I initially thought. And based on the placement of the church, my guess is this stretch of road maybe didn't go through here at one time. So if I had to make a guess, I would say the picture was taken from like roughly this area, maybe a little bit. And I am at the intersection, so I'm not off one way or another, but the picture kind of lines up like this. So this is about as good as I'm gonna get. By the look of the image, there's like houses right here, so I'm wondering if maybe this part of the street didn't exist at one time. Because this is the intersection, and the church is off to this portion. but there's houses here, so I'm guessing this part of the street didn't exist at one time. At least that's my best guess. I'm really having a guess on this one. I initially didn't even know what direction I was supposed to. I thought I was looking this way in the image, but no, I'm looking this way. Maybe it was more like this. I don't know. I give up. And that, everybody, is it for the third installment in my series, Portland Then and Now. And as you can see, the longer I did it, because I was doing a lot of other stuff that day, so I was kind of doing an image, coming back, or going away, coming back, doing another image, going somewhere else, filming something else, coming back. And the longer I was doing it, the more confused I was just getting in general. But still, you got to see a few little pieces of history then compared to now, and it's always fun, even when it gets a little bit confusing. So thank you so much for stopping by, as always. And if you like the video, if you like what I'm doing, remember to like, share, subscribe, all those little things that help my channel grow just a little bit more. And there's a link to my Patreon page if you want to help me out that way in the description with this video, as well as links to my various other social media pieces, whatever you want to call them. My Facebook, my Instagram, a Reddit subreddit page, all that fun stuff. And all that said, till next time, thank you so much for watching. This has been Steve, the Amateur Historian.